Okay, so I'm going to open it up. Woo! I missed. Okay, step 2. Now I'm going to take my underquilt. I'm going to set this up exactly like I did in my video. I'm going to make this the head, that the feet. I'm going to come up here to the head. I'm going to gather up my 2 ends. I'm going to do an easy overhand knot. Come from underneath. Go up through the cords, just like that. That one's going to come over the top. There we go. Just like that. Go between the cords to anchor it so it doesn't slide down on me. Do another quick, simple overhand knot. Just like that. I'm going to walk down here and I'm going to take the other 2 ends, come over the top, tie them, just like this. I'm going to pull my excess cord from the bottom. I'm going to hook to that, just like that. Do a simple overhand, just like that. Now I'm going to get in it and test it. The way you normally get into this is you're going to sit down and slide your feet up under this loop in. Open it up. And we're going to sit down in the hammock itself. We're going to twist around. We're going to slide our feet underneath that loop. Just like this. Now, we're going to make sure this is tucking up against us. Reach through and pull the excess material up and tuck it over to one side. Just like we did in the earlier video. Now that I have made sure that my hammock is ready to go, now I'm going to pack underneath me with pine straw. I picked a place that there was sufficient pine straw to do this. Take my leg and dry it up underneath me, like so. This is going to be additional insulation up under me. This pine straw is dry. If it was wet, I wouldn't do this step, but it will serve. I'm only going to worry about it in my torso and the back of my knee area. Now that I've got it up under, let me adjust so you can see down a little bit better. I'm going to rake up a nice, big, thick pile about that wide underneath me. That way when I open up the hammock, just like this, and sit down, and I turn around and I'm going to be laying in the hammock. Now I've also got this insulation up under me. I'm going to do like this and kind of fluff it around me, get to where I want and I'm comfortable. Okay, so now I've got the hammock and I've got my woobie as an underquilt and I've got ground insulation underneath me. So now my hammock is ready. Now I'm going to go to my Ridgeline and tarp. But I'm going to do this as a slight variation of what I normally do. I have 2 trees here that are about that wide apart. This one on this end is actually about that wide and this one's about this wide, and that'll work fine. I'm going to make a double loop Ridgeline, which simply means I'm going to run a loop all the way around both of them and then pull it tight. I want it right here, just above it, about even with the top of my hammock cords, so it's going to be just above my head. Okay, I need to be able to sit up and that's it. So somewhere along in here is where I'm going to go with this. I'm going to use my pre-made up Ridgeline for this. Okay, now that I've run a continuous, I have 2 ridge lines because it just goes all the way around both trees. This is going to spread my top. You'll see this little trick in a minute. If I'm a little bit high, I'll scoot them down, but I think they're about right. Now I'm going to take my tarp I'm going to be using, and I'm going to put it over the top. And you see I'm trying to measure out how much I want to come out here. I want about say a foot or so coming out here. I want to stake it to the ground in the back, but pull this out smooth. Okay, I'm going to pull my back, and I want my back to come couple of feet back, not much. I want it to be a good downward slope, but I want it to be more of a reflector than a rain collector. Now I'm going to take my stake, put it into my loop I already got there, and I'm going to twist it a few times to tie it up in it. Just like that. I'm going to pull my stake out at the diagonal like I always do. And I'm going to put it in place. Just like this. And for those astute of you, yes, I'm using the WCSK to do this job. It does good at pounding tent stakes. Now slide it in, twist it a couple times, tie it up, pull it out tight, pound it in. Okay, now you see the basic idea. Now that back wall is way too high. That air gap along that bottom right there needs to be filled up. That tarp needs to be pulled down and pine straw packed in there so I don't get a draft coming from the back. But you can see how it fits up in there. And look how extreme this front of this tarp is pulled down. That's to capture heat, because I'm going to have a fire about one step out. And it's going to be a low fire, but it's going to be very wide. Just a little bit of flame, but just enough to cast heat into that shelter. And then the way that top is will catch more. Now let me get in there and I'll talk about it a little bit more. Getting into it. I'm going to come in from underneath. I'm going to open up my hammock. Make sure I don't hang my knife on everything. Sit down in it. Now, by being in here with this configuration, the heat is going to come in from the low fire here in front. Now this isn't truly a super shelter, but you get the basic idea. What it's doing is, and I may even put a stick here in the middle to kind of hold up the center. I want to capture as much heat in here as I can. Have it flow around in here by convection. I want the wind coming from where the camera is going this way so that I get the heat but not a lot of smoke. I want the smoke to drift down, but I want that heat to come in here. This insulation up underneath me, my firewood's going to be right here at the head. So I can just reach up and pitch a couple of logs at the fire very easily. Now let me turn around and lay down. As you can see, I hope you can see anyway, the poncho liner completely seals around me all the way up here. Now this slack like we talked about, what I'm going to do is reach up here, grab it and pull it in just like that and tuck it over. Now it's more up against me. Now when I snuggle down in here, I'm nice and warm. I got dead air space all the way around me. I can pull this up tighter if I need to. It really wants to come to this side this way. Just like that. And that's where I'm going to put my head. See? So now this airspace up in here is trapping the heat. It's not going anywhere. It's going to come in underneath the top and it's going to roll around me. This gap back here will be sealed up. This will be my living area. It'll be nice and warm. That flat top with them two ridge lines causes the heat to hit there and then roll flat out instead of going off the front of a tarp. This captures heat. So a low fire with not a lot of smoke but a lot of coals will keep me warm with very little maintenance. And when I need to add wood, I just roll over, grab the firewood and add it to the fire this way. Very simple. So, in conclusion, my hammock is slung low to the ground. It has my woobie as an underquilt underneath me, doubled in half. Then there's a layer of natural leaf or pine straw insulation underneath that to help capture even more. The back of my tarp, like I said, would be staked to the ground, and then I would have pine straw or something to seal up that back end. Now if I'm getting a wind that's coming this way or something, I may take my poncho and hook it across here and drape over. Is even more wind shear, but I do want a little bit of breeze coming over me to keep the smoke out of there. Okay? Now my fire is going to be right here, about from the edge of my tarp, one step. It's going to be right in this area, and I may put a space blanket heat reflector on the back of it. I want it long and narrow. So I start with the central fire and I start adding the outside. We're going to do that as a demonstration later on. But it's a long, narrow, low fire that's mostly coals. And as I add firewood, I won't add to one place, I'll add up and down the line to keep the whole thing going. My feet getting cold, add more down there. Getting a little too hot up here, reach over and scoot it down a little bit. You know, you kind of gotta fly your fire a little bit. But this is my winter hammock camping setup. It insulates me, it keeps me out of the breeze, and it traps heat. Now if you had thin plastic, it would be very easy to throw it over the ends in the front and turn it into a true super shelter. But I normally don't need that in my woods. Hope this gives you some ideas, guys. Please leave any questions or comments below, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, I'm Blackie Thomas for Shaman's Forge Woodscraft, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.